The 1960s were a time of social and political adjustment in America. The civil rights movement was establishing its presence in American society with a generally peaceful rhetoric to end legal segregation, with white supremacy prevailing as the dominant social institution. One revolutionary group broke the silence of the structural violence of the African American race with a radical, publicized violent image. With the goal of gaining recognition of black rights and ending oppression by the police, the Black Panther Party was formed in 1966. While the Black Panther Party's controversial approach in fighting structural racism and challenging police brutality resulted in increased bloodshed and the initial fear toward the Black Power movement, their drive and militant leadership left an evolving legacy on the culture of Black nationalism, worked to ensure human rights and provide social services that were lacking in some communities, and introduced awareness and advocacy for an ongoing movement against discriminatory police violence.
In 1966, the Black Power movement was born out of the current civil rights movement, primarily formed of determined black youth. Historian Stokely Carmichael analyzes the movement as a rebirth of the civil rights movement, which had reached its peak effectiveness and needed a new approach. Of this wave of young revolutionaries, a small group with big goals emerged in Oakland, California, under founders Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, named the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. The group drew their doctrines from Mao Zedong's communist critiques of colonialism and Malcolm X's self-determined rhetoric. They developed a 10-point program which dictated their objectives, including freedom, employment, education, fair trial, healthcare, housing, and an end to police violence.
The black people, instead of saying we're asking white people to give us those constitutional rights, we're saying we demand them. And so it was a very different kind of it was less dependence on white goodwill than the civil rights movement had been.
Within 2 years, the political organization expanded its influence across other areas in the U.S. with the development of nationwide chapters of the party. The group empowered blacks to be self-reliant as leaders of their fight for equality and justice.
Because that's the type of organization the Black Panther Party is. We don't produce buffoons, we produce leaders. With everybody in the Black Panther Party on any type of cadre, he's becoming a leader.
The Black Panther Party promoted the arming of black people in order to protect themselves and their rights.
What were they doing? They were saying, we have a right in our communities not to be brutalized, not to be shot, and we have a right to pick up a gun to stop you from shooting us.
In late 1966, they organized their first patrols of the police in which they lawfully monitored the behavior of officers and loudly exclaimed their opposition to the unjust police system in rallies. When confronted, the Panthers were informed and well-spoken in their constitutional rights to be armed and protect themselves because they believed education was key to desegregation. This legal yet radical method received national attention and alerted people of the Panthers' cause. Seeing this integration of the culture of black nationalism in the media, the FBI initiated a program known as COINTELPRO in August of 1967 in an effort to prevent the growth of the party, which they saw as a threat to American security. Although, in total, 28 Panther members were killed and many more imprisoned, the Panthers continued their efforts. As leader Fred Hampton put it, "You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail a revolution." Curtis J. Austin, author of Up Against the Wall, along with other historians, take the viewpoint that violence, whether internal or external, rhetorical or real, psychological or physical, constituted the central element driving the group's decision-making process. However, such claims ignore the Panthers' equally as important fight for practical social services. Because their 10-point program demanded healthcare and basic rights, the Panthers created their breakfast program in 1969 in Oakland, a successful social service which provided children in underprivileged black communities with daily breakfast, feeding over 10,000 children daily by 1970. Healthcare clinics and other survival programs were also established, in which blacks could get medical help despite their lack of money or insurance, perpetuating the importance of black lives through the provision of human rights.
If this is criminal, then we all want to be criminal. If it's criminal to feed children that are hungry, if it's criminal to start a program that says that the only prerequisite that people have to involve themselves in this program is to be hungry, then we're going to continue to be criminal. If it's criminal to say that the only prerequisite that people have to have when they want free medical aid is that they be sick, then we intend to continue to be criminal.
One of the most prominent chapters of the party was in Chicago, under determined chairman Fred Hampton.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people, and we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. Everybody in the state of Illinois is going to have to be involved or even around the revolution, because we're going to have one.
Hampton founded the successful door-to-door healthcare program, and his powerful rhetoric gained national momentum for the Black Power movement. He believed in the union of all races, willing to create peace and be a revolutionary force against structural racism and the faulty capitalist system. On December 4th, 1969, at 4:45 a.m., 21-year-old Hampton and party member Mark Clark were shot and killed in Hampton's Chicago home in the middle of the night. Controversy ensued as the police claimed the assault was provoked, while forensic evidence proved otherwise. Years later, it was revealed that the assassination was the planned work of the FBI. Hampton's death was a tragedy and raised outrage in the party, as well as national awareness of the faulty race politics in the police system.
What they didn't understand when they did that is that pigs die, but Chairman Fred lives.
Many young radicals, such as the Weathermen, reacted to the murder with a rhetoric of war against the justice system.
It was devastating for us and also spurred us on to feel that we had to take more drastic actions in resistance.
Support from radical groups increased in response to Hampton's murder, but without his strong leadership, the party's general following decreased, police attacks increased, and the Panthers continued to engage in fatal gunfights with officers.
Particularly, I think, after Fred was murdered in Chicago, I think their popularity somewhat declined. I think the police wanted it to be a lesson to anybody who would stand up to them.
Years of allegations of violence by Huey Newton led to a decline in his power, which dissolved his leadership of the party.
Now, through the years of harassments, jailings, murders such as Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, who was murdered there in Chicago by the police. Fred Hampton was asleep when he was machine gunned. All of these things caused the party to slowly lose membership.
Conflicts between the members of the party ensued about the future of the organization, leading to the collapse of the group in 1982.
The most immediate impact of the Black Panther Party was the radical voice and sense of empowerment that they gave to the Black community. Their publicized actions earned them national recognition despite their small size.
But we got this international notoriety. We were like a social evolutionary accident in the middle of an ongoing civil human rights protest that was already there.
However, this recognition often took the form of fear due to their misportrayal by the media as excessively belligerent haters of the white race.
Many whites were threatened by Black Panthers. I don't think, they were deliberately misportrayed as attacking white people, which is not what they were about.
And the people that have been educated, they'd have said that we don't hate the motherfucker white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow.
Additionally, the Panthers were major symbols of the Black Power movement and the fight for Black political power. Peniel E. Joseph claims that Black Power helped successfully revitalize Black nationalism as a practical political process. Panther Bobby Seale's 1973 race for mayor of Oakland, which resulted in a close 43% of the vote, was not actually a loss, as it granted blacks political recognition in what Robert O. Self, author of American Babylon, describes as the process of black people becoming municipal power brokers.
As Peniel E. Joseph describes, historiography has evolved on the portrayal of the Panthers, shifting from an image of fear and violence to a more justified revolutionary movement that modern race conflicts still draw energy from. Police brutality against the African American race is still a very relevant issue today, as seen in the recent controversies surrounding the cases of Eric Garner and Michael Brown. The filmed unjust killing of Eric Garner was documented, yet the police were not sentenced to any punishment. Similarly, there was also evidence that the police shot at Fred Hampton without being provoked. Yet it took years for the injustice to be recognized, and they were also not sentenced. The protest and anger towards the police violence and abuse of the law system and the killings of Garner and Brown were demonstrated by a large part of America, proving that the goals and beliefs of the Black Panther Party are still gaining popularity and demonstrating themselves in modern race conflicts. Although the party dissolved in 1982, the Panthers remain as symbols and leaders of the fight for racial equality. The last word has not been written on the impact of the Black Panther Party, as their legacy prevails and is evolving with today's racial climate.